Hello, and welcome to today's free webinar, The 3 Keys to Everything You Need to Know to Confidently Present Actionable Data Stories to Your Stakeholders Without Putting Them to Sleep. So I want to welcome you. Again, the 3 keys every data practitioner needs to confidently present insights and inspire action, with a little side note of hopefully not putting your audience to sleep. But it would mean a lot to me if you stay until the end of this session for a special offer. I do have a special offer for you. It would mean a lot to me for you to stick around because it's going to be the way that you can really take what you learn here really to the next level. So if you've carved out that hour, just stick it out with me. All right, so we are into data, I've heard around the block. And I thought it would be appropriate to start with a piece of data that actually really surprised me when I heard it a few years ago. It was about what percent of new hires and promotions were going to be requiring data storytelling skills. This was in the Forrester Predictions Report in 2019. I was shocked to hear that it was 25% of all new hires and promotions. But what's a little disturbing about this trend is, according to a study on LinkedIn, also done in 2019, that represents the largest skills gap between job hunters, hiring managers, and available job seekers and candidates. So, this is obviously the skill that is the must-have if you want to carve your path to, data stardom. But it's not hard to understand why there is a big gap here. It's really overwhelming between trying to learn how to actually analytize our data and compile it and clean it and package it and stay on top of all of our work. There is no time, and it's overwhelming to try to figure out, how do I actually have to present this and tell a story? Well, that's exactly why we're here today. My 2 goals for this training are, first, for you to understand that the only way for you to become indispensable to your organizations and clients is through keeping your audience engaged and excited to take action on your insights and recommendations. Now, the second goal is that the best way to learn how to present those insights in a compelling way is through learning simple yet powerful data presentation and visualization techniques. You have to learn the user manual. And this is what I've gotten really good at, and it's taken me a lot of great places. But I want to tell you, I didn't get here overnight. I didn't just wake up and suddenly have a professional speaking career on all of this. I took what you would call the long road, 10 years to be exact. Like you, I might have started a career in internet marketing. That's where I began my career. And it was amazing. I got to look at all of these different kinds of pieces of data coming together, like psychology and shopping and SEO and usability and email. And I love numbers. And, I was happily crunching my numbers all day, just pivoting tables of paid search data and making fun scatter plots and this and that. But what I didn't expect that would be asked of me was that I'd be asked to go into a room full of these very important looking stakeholder people, and I'd have to get them to care about what I was doing and take action on it. Does anyone resonate with, wow, that's that's not exactly what I knew how to do? And oftentimes, tell me if you resonate with this too, what we end up going in there with is this giant pile of vomiting of every number from every platform, and we don't know what data to share, and there's always too much, and it's in what random order, right? Let me know in that chat if this is an issue that you struggled with. And what oftentimes that leads to is, when we're presenting to our stakeholders, we're looking around the room and they're not exactly giving us their undivided attention, right? Glazed eyeballs, bit of drool, totally the head bobbing. That's a clear sign. And, I started to fear that all of my hard work was flying into what I was calling the dreaded data black hole. There it goes, right? And you worked so hard on it. It's really not fair. Elisa says, biggest challenge is always try to focus on what those stakeholders need to know. Yeah, and they don't always know what they need to know either. And that's exactly what the first part of this is going to help you determine. So in order to solve this problem, I decided to take a 3-year philosophical journey and find answers to this very deep metaphysical question. You ready, guys? It's so deep. Why do bad things happen to good data? The data is perfectly sound. I checked it 3 times. It's statistically significant. What is going on here? And I would find all kinds of answers to this question, but the one I found at the root was the one that mattered most, and it kind of surprised me. I would like for you to meet your audience's brain. Hello, brain. So this collection of synapses and neurons and glial cells all bubble up to be your best friend or your worst enemy during your presentations. And it might be kind of hard to believe, but every single person that you're presenting to in that room actually has one of these, and they all kind of work the same way in terms of how they are taking in information. And Heidi, this is a live presentation. Want to make sure that you're hearing me, because I want to make sure I understand if feels like there's something off there. But yes, we're live. So when you don't understand what's happening in that thing in everyone's head, and you don't learn how to stimulate it and engage it, what happens is this affliction that is happening in conference rooms all over the world. It is really terrible. It's terrifying. And I call it presentation zombification. It's those people that walked in the room totally smart and with it, and they're walking out confused and angry and triggered and not feeling the way they wanted to feel when they came in. And unfortunately, this affliction is expensive. We don't realize it, but a study done by Doodle.com, funny name, found that over $500 million per year is wasted during ineffective business meetings in the US and the UK alone. Now, just imagine what that extrapolates out to the whole planet. It is a big, big problem. Okay, so what I came to understand is I was participating in the definition of insanity. And what is that? Can anyone, who's the first person who can drop that famous quote that is not by Albert Einstein, by the way, fact check. How does the rest of this quote go? The definition of insanity is, I'll give you a second. Okay, I'll skip a tiny bit ahead. It is doing, yes, and the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that is exactly what I was doing for years. I kept going in there with the same bag of non-tricks and non-techniques and non-decisions and expecting standing ovations and handshakes and high fives. And that just wasn't what was going to happen. Now, I decided to do a pretty deep dive. I went in deep, read a whole bunch of books, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of stuff here. But eventually I created a framework. And when I started implementing that framework, I was starting to see success. In one particular presentation I did for my digital marketing group around a problem we were having around our site search functionality, I got them to really see what was going on. But not only did I help show them a problem, I had created a path to transformation for my audience. And that is what stories and presentations are. And what was the result of starting to create these paths for my stakeholders? Well, I would love to share you because I want you to have these results too. First, I stopped turning boardrooms into boardrooms. I love that one so much. Other things, I reactivated a department-wide search optimization task force that was dormant for years. I got us to increase budgets for improved analytical capabilities. And then some of the benefits I experienced over the years, being able to hire more headcount. I got 2 promotions and especially in times like this, I survived several layoffs where my entire departments were let go, and I was the last person standing. And it is honestly in my deepest, deepest core of my heart that believes that, like me, you deserve to win with your audience. So that's why I created a speaking career out of this exact subject. Once I got really good at this, I was able to be invited to different conferences to speak so I could stop the insight insanity and help start an insight revolution of storytelling and engagement, which led to a whole business around teaching this full time, and even a podcast that maybe some of you might be familiar with called the Present Beyond Measure Show. And I was on my way, and I haven't looked back since. Now, I want to say, there's a disclaimer. These results are not typical. I decided I wanted to make this my full-time job, but they are possible, obviously. So I want to show you just 3 of the most valuable little tools and techniques that I have that created big impacts for me. Okay, but first we have to work on breaking down what I call the 3 myths of why we are putting our audience to sleep. Okay, and I want to help you overcome these myths because that is exactly what they are. The first myth is stakeholders don't know what they want, and they don't understand what I'm trying to say. If you resonate with any of these, make sure to keep putting that in the chat. A second one, slide design doesn't really matter, and the more stuff on my slides, the better, because I worked harder, right? And then I need fancy data viz platforms and splashy, exciting charts to deliver engaging data stories. So these are the myths that the practitioners I work with struggle with the most, and I want to help you overcome them. Let's talk about myth number 1. Stakeholders don't know what they want, and they don't understand what I'm trying to say. Now, sometimes this is true. It's not always a total myth. But the thing is, stakeholders do know what they need. It just might not be in the language that you're presenting it with. Your stakeholders, when they're going in there to talk to them, they're thinking, hey, I have a lot on my mind. I'd love to hear how complex and complicated your analysis was and how long it all took you and what your p-values are. I'd love to hear that, but I'm super busy. And this is what I really want. I want you to show me how to move my business forward in a way that I understand quickly and easily, and in a way that makes me want to act. Okay, so that's not the same thing as not knowing what I want. So the aha moment that I had in my journey is I needed to understand how to take my data and present it and translate it into the language of their needs. The other thing I never learned how to do was to focus upon one core message of every presentation. Instead, I would just give a whole laundry list of everything that was happening in that universe and hope that something would stick. And this is why they get so overwhelmed and they don't remember anything and they're not particularly motivated. Liz and Alicia, yeah, that is what I find the biggest one that practitioners struggle with. So let's say one of your stakeholders, you're working in marketing, for example, and they call you up and they're like, can you present some campaign results? This is delightfully vague and doesn't really give you any clear direction, right? But if you're really going to get in their head and understand what their needs are, that's what you're going to ask. What do I actually need right now? What's top of my mind? What are my biggest aspirations, my big hairy goals? How am I going to make the top tier of my bonus? How am I going to successfully complete this big project that I'm at? What's going on for them that is going to lead them to success? You can also ask, what's keeping me up at night? What is the big hairy monkey that's on my back that's preventing me from being successful? What are the obstacles keeping me from finishing that project? What are the issues with our website, with our marketing, whatever, that are preventing people from becoming our customers? And to that, ultimately, you also want to make sure you're asking, well, what is best for our customers, right? Because ultimately that's what your decisions are hopefully centering around. But you have to take what's best for your customers and translate it into what your stakeholders need to be successful, because they are going to make the decisions ultimately. And then finally, you want to know, how are you going to measure it? How are you going to know if you're doing this well or if it needs a change or an optimization? And these are the questions that you want to think about before you really dive into the analysis. If data crops up and you want to show it and you want to make it important, how can you make it important to your stakeholders in the context and language of what they need for success? That is going to be the key, because they're your audience and they are who your entire presentation should centralize around. It's for them, not for you. Now, the other issue I find so often with data presentations, this was my issue as well, is overwhelm. We build what I call the kitchen sink presentation, where we take every single number that we have available in a platform and just plop it in a random order. And we're like, ta-da! And that's not what we're going to do anymore. All the most successful presentations in the world centralize around a core theme or message. So one of the most valuable tools, this is one of my favorites, revolutionized how clear and focused my presentations were. And it got me to asking, what is my data stories BuzzFeed headline? Who's familiar with BuzzFeed? Drop in the chat. BuzzFeed, where they are the most irresistible blog post headlines, listicles, meme collections in the world. And they have scientifically cracked the code on how to make them irresistible to click and read more. Great. So Anna knows. So I got to thinking, well, is my presentation have a BuzzFeed worthy headline? Or is it like campaign overview or data review or something really boring and like nondescript? Would you ever have a BuzzFeed headline that says blog post or a quiz? No, you're going to have some kind of headline for it. So one of the best, and the quizzes are amazing. So one of the most effective tools I have come across in this work didn't have to do with data, but it's sourced from this little up and coming kind of presentation, little startup company called TED. Just kidding. So obviously TED is not a little startup. They are the home of the world's most inspiring and innovative speakers and speeches in the world. So something is working for them. And what I came to learn is that every single TED Talk in the world cannot go on stage without this one thing. Would you like to know what it is? Yeah, I bet you do. All right, it's called the through line. And the through line, it was a term coined by the owner of TED, Chris Sanderson, and it's defined as the connecting theme that ties together each narrative element in a presentation. In other words, it's a presentation summarized in a single sentence. Can we do that with a lot of the presentations that we're giving? I definitely couldn't. But it is amazing to think that in one sentence, we can wrap up everything that we're trying to convey in that presentation. And that is total clarity. Think of it as presentation minimalism, okay? It's what counts most. Now, we're not talking about dramatic shifts in robotics and, all kinds of very lofty topics. So I actually created a formula that I felt would work really well for most presentations in general, but definitely data presentations. And it goes like this. You start with what you're presenting about, the topic. You hint that you found something, and that creates a conflict or an opportunity. And then you hint at your solution, that you have a solution for the content. You're not giving away all of the insights and all of the data and all the recommendations. You're just creating a headline for their story. So I want to give you a couple of examples that I've actually presented in the past, see how they work for you. First, our Q3 A/B testing netted a positive gain of 16% conversion and could continue to grow another 10% in Q4 with our latest test recommendations. Talked about what we're talking about, testing. Talked about how there's an opportunity, and there's actually an opportunity actually is a conflict because it's something you haven't achieved yet. And then there's this future opportunity, and we have a solution for grabbing that. Maybe you don't always have great news, but I don't believe in bad news. I only believe in learning opportunities. So our search marketing program efficiency declined during May, and we found 3 reasons for why this may have happened and what to do about it. See, I won't even say that it's bad news. It's simply an opportunity to improve, and we have a solution. Finally, we'll show you how the capabilities of our new email marketing platform could dramatically increase our engagement rates. Maybe it's not even about data, but you're trying to get your team excited about a new platform or socialize something new, and you're creating something. Now tell me in the chat if you feel like these through lines are a little more exciting than most titles of our presentations, which are quarterly business review, data dive, campaign overview, things like that. Just let me know if you feel like there might be a teeny bit more interesting and clear. And then that through line is also going to function as your North Star for your entire presentation. And you're going to build everything around supporting this case, this thesis that you are making. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad to hear Reggie, Karen, Jan, and Jenny. Yes, they are going to be, it never fails that they're always more engaged because you're building a story in there. Now, I hope you can see that the truth is that focusing upon one core message and understanding their needs is just one of the many keys to keeping stakeholders awake and engaged, one out of many. And you can learn them right now. Great. I'm so glad that you're Matthew's working on a QBR today. That can be a great subtitle, but think about what the actual story was throughout that review, right? Once you've looked at your data. Great. Glad you're still with me. Okay, so myth number 2. This is a fun one. Slide design doesn't really matter, and the more stuff on my slides, the better. So I'm often told by my course students that the more stuff is on their slide, the more it looks like they worked harder on it. And I can't tell you how much of a myth this is. So quick little fun story. A long time ago, I was working at an internship and, doing like software testing. And my company CEO said, hey, small. He was like, hey, would you like to present some findings to our client? He wanted to give me like a chance to test my stuff. And I was like, okay, sure. Because I'm in college. I'm like, okay. So I took a PowerPoint class, which taught me all of the different features and functions of PowerPoint. So I took all this data and I plopped on like these big titles and I animated everything in, like I spiraled it in and I laser beamed every single title or like bouncing letters. And I made sure to animate every single thing on the slide. And I thought I was like, had nailed it, right? So at the end of that meeting, I asked, there's another one that had to animated. And I asked my boss, I was like, so, yeah? He said, well, that was good, but can you just not make me so dizzy and confused? That was a lot of motion on there. And I was so devastated. I worked so hard making sure I used every feature of PowerPoint to just bedazzle my clients, and didn't quite pan out that way. And this is part of the reason why there is a term that has been coined called death by PowerPoint. I'm sure you have heard of this one once or twice. And here's the thing about that term. Here was my aha moment. This was not a PowerPoint problem, nor a Keynote problem, not a Prezi problem, or a Google Slides problem. This was a people problem. I did not have the skills and techniques to understand basic design and functions of simplicity and layout and alignment and things like that. Now, to my defense, what I could have used from this tool is a little bit more control. The tools that allow you to do pretty much anything don't impose enough guardrails for us design-wise if we don't know the principles already. So I had to figure out what were the two biggest things that were missing from my slide design toolbox. I will tell you. They were simplicity and intention. Simplicity meaning not including anything that you don't need and everything you do need to create clear comprehension, and intention, making conscious, mindful choices about all of the elements of your slide design. And this goes for data visualization too. So remember these two words. Now, when I was in my journey, I came across an amazing book called Slideology by Nancy Duarte. And her foundational philosophy kind of like totally uprooted everything I'd ever understood about creating big, messy slides like you saw earlier. And what she said to do is to create ideas, not slides. I want that to land for a second. Slides are what you saw before, big clunky titles, tons of graphs, tons of bullet points, all random icons and clip art. But ideas are pieces of your story that move a narrative forward for the audience. It's a different thing. And what her foundational philosophy said was, don't put more than one idea on one slide, a single idea per slide philosophy. In fact, you may want to use more than one slide, ... to create just one idea, kind of like this split slide technique that I just showed you, which is really effective for data storytelling. Now, what this might mean is that you take like one really densely packed slide of crap, and then you break it up into these smaller, digestible, I call them slideas or like sliders because they're more biteable rather than like a big mix slide. I don't know, something like that. And allow them to become really digestible. Now, that can be really hard because what that means is breaking out your content in a lot more slides, and we're often not used to doing that. So before you learn how to do that, I want to give you a really quick, simple technique for if you don't know how to do that yet, you can still pace people through a very busy slide or a chart that they might not be familiar with and not lose their attention and then they become zombies, which is what we're trying to avoid. So I want you to learn to guide their attention with something called shape pacing. It's a little technique I created, and it's going to be your data storytelling bestie. So I want to give you another backstory about an advanced chart that I decided to use to answer one of my stakeholders' questions, but I knew they had never seen this chart before. And if I showed it all at once, their brains would probably melt out of their skull. So I'll walk you through step by step exactly how I did it for them. Okay. And don't worry if you don't understand the content or the premise. That's not really the point here. So we were working with voice of customer data, and my client said, I want a deeper analysis. I want to see something that tells me what is the primary reason people visited the site. And I want to know, were they able to accomplish their goal on the site? Oh, by the way, I also want to see their customer satisfaction scores too. Thank you. And I was like, whoa, that is a little complex. A bar chart's not going to do it for that. So what I did is I used something called a dumbbell dot plot, if you've heard of that. It's not a standard out-of-the-box chart. It's something that requires some custom creation, and that's not what I'll be showing you today. But what I'm going to show you is how I walked my audience through an unfamiliar chart so that they didn't get lost. So what I said is, this is what you asked to see today. Now, you're kind of like a tour guide at a zoo. On our left here, we have a list of the reasons why our visitors came to the website. Here, we're all familiar with these. Any questions? No, of course not. Great. Now, these circles that we have on the right here, the blue circles, these are the customer satisfaction scores of the people who accomplished those reasons. Okay, so that's where they all are living. Okay, now these gray circles on the left here represent the satisfaction scores of people who did not accomplish what they came to do on the site. This is showing us something interesting. If we look at the bottom, if they came for research funding opportunities, it didn't really move the needle that much if they accomplished or didn't accomplish what they wanted. But when you look at learning about public health issues, there is a huge spread between how they are the happiest bunch if they came and accomplished what they wanted to do, but they were the second unhappiest group if they didn't. And this helped us prioritize what areas of the site to look at for improvement and optimization. Now, if I had shown this all at once, their eyes would have zoomed all over the place trying to make sense of something they've never seen before. But because I used shapes to pace them through, which you can see here, I was able to keep them with me the whole time. These are simple semi-transparent or opaque shapes, specifically rectangles here, but you can use others. And all I do is animate them in and out in the exact order I need for people to stay on track with me. So I'll give you another example where if you have a really busy slide or there's a lot of information on one slide, you can use shapes to guide people through the slide in the way that you want without them jumping ahead. So let's say we're talking about this one particular area. It looks like there's nothing on this slide, but what I'm doing here is, let's talk about this part. All I did was animate out an opaque rectangle to reveal this part, and I'm staying here. And when I'm done talking about it, now we move over here. Let's now move over to the right here. And all I did was animate out an opaque box, but I animated back in a semi-transparent box at the same time to move your vision over. Do you see how that works? And it shows that we've already discussed this, but it's no longer the focus of the moment. And I'll do it one more time where I push everyone's focus down to the bottom here. And we've already covered this area and we don't need to look at that anymore. You see how that works? So you can find ways for people, because if you show something like this all at once, this is why they stop paying attention. They don't know where to look first. They're not listening to you talk. And this strategy is critical for keeping their attention on you. The truth is, simpler and cleaner slides are easier for your audience to understand. It's just better if you don't have it, but you can use that pacing to take them through. And you don't need a college design degree to create simple and clean slides. This isn't learning R and Python. This is very simple. All right, I just want to do a check-in. You all with me still? We're moving on to myth number 3. I just want to make sure this is resonating, nothing too confusing. All right, great. Okay, so myth number 3. This is around data storytelling and visualization. So this is the thing everyone loves. And this myth is pretty prevalent. Well, I really need fancy data viz platforms and splashy, exciting charts to deliver stories that my audience cares about. They don't care if it's not an exciting chart, right? And we're kind of led to believe that often by dashboard creators and data viz platforms and things like that. I'm so glad to hear this is landing. And I got to tell you, it's kind of a crock of you know what. The thing is, data storytelling, I think of like a shiny wrapped present under the Christmas or holiday or Festivus tree, whatever you celebrate, because we have no idea what's inside of it, but it's so shiny and sparkly that it's all we can think about. And we just can't wait to dive in. And we want to look at this fancy new chart and this fancy new platform and yay. And what it doesn't really prevent, I love the enthusiasm, but what that doesn't really prevent is from us creating these intense visualizations and confusing charts and tables and things that end up not being an actual story. And storytelling is something that I teach very fully in the whole offer that I have for you at the end. But just to give you a little bit of a tiny little technique that's really powerful for where the story actually is this aha moment that I had here. I didn't need fancy technology and platforms. I needed a practical, story-driven methodology that would help my audience understand the importance of my story every single time. So I created one, and I call it the Pica Protocol. I know, super creative. But the Pica Protocol is a prescription for healthy, actionable data stories that you can use every single time. And I want to give you one of the steps in the protocol because it's one of the fastest changes you can make that has the biggest impact. I want to give that to you for free. And that is the last letter, A, for aesthetics. So aesthetics is not about making charts look pretty and flashy and exciting, even though these are requests that we get. It actually means using principles of visual cues to allow your audience to efficiently and accurately interpret your data. That's ultimately what you want. And what that really is about for me is first cutting the clutter and again, embracing that simplicity and learning how to emphasize your key stories. Now, that slide that you saw before had a lot of stuff on it, and that's probably a slide that you're more accustomed to seeing. You're probably not used to seeing slides that look more like this. And that's because they have a lot of unnecessary junk on them. And I'm kind of a closet health nut, not so closeted. And I love to do one particular thing every single day. I love to detox. I love to get all of the grimy, cruddy stuff out that we don't need and just keep the things that we do. So as an example, these are charts that I presented once upon a time, a long time ago. And, you know, they're all right. They're bar charts, but there's so much unnecessary jazz going on. It's like, it's all this noise, but oftentimes the default settings of different visualization platforms will add a lot of this stuff. This is a default palette that's available. So I'll take you through a before and after. I can't go through all of the steps, unfortunately, but I'll take you through a before and after here of, wow, do you see how different that looks? And I'll just review what I did here. I removed the background, the border, legend, grid lines, axes. I increased the bar gap width. I labeled the data directly, and I made the font more readable. And now, who can tell me what else I did here that might look a little jarring, actually? It might look a little strange because we might not be used to seeing charts that look this way. And I'll give you a second. I really want to see if someone can pick it up. Do, 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 do. I love that chat delay. Yes, Jen, thank you. The color. I know this might look like a little like sad Eeyore type color here. It's not terribly exciting, but it's not meant to be. What I've done is I've created an emotionally neutral backdrop for the data so that nothing's particularly jumping out at you. And notice I only made 2 colors, one for each measure. That's because color is one of your most important storytelling tools. And I want to show you exactly how to use it so that you can really communicate what matters most. And what I don't mean is creating a dashboard that looks something like this. This is a real dashboard that I had to consult on. And what is happening here is that none of the colors, this is about intentionality. Remember I mentioned that? None of these colors actually are intentional. So they end up not meaning anything. And they all compete for your attention, and you have no idea what you're supposed to take away. Yes, the Las Vegas effect. I love that so much. I'm definitely stealing that. Yeah, so don't do this. So what I'm going to show you is the difference between that gray slide that we saw before. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a standout color like this nice sharp blue to emphasize your data story. You decide what you're emphasizing. You see, it's not just the gray, it's also that blue. Oh, Reggie, thank you so much for staying. Hope you can catch the rest of the replay. So the next step you can take it is you can go up here, and in this title that I have, I'm making an observation. I am matching what I'm talking about in what I'm emphasizing in the chart and matching it to what I'm talking about in the title so that there's this clear connective tissue between the story I have in my title and the data that I have in my chart. Do you see how simple that is? But your eyes can't help but be magnetized right to that color so that your audience understands what you are trying to communicate to them every time. See, it's not hard. It is quite simple. And the truth is that you can help your audience understand any chart or insight you present, other than an insane Marimekko or Sankey might be kind of tough, but by using simple and intentional visual cues. All right. So those are the 3 myths. And now I would love to ask you a question. Are you excited about learning some of this stuff? Do you see that there are opportunities for looking at how you approach this whole practice a little bit differently? Maybe you picked up from how your colleagues did it, or were taught by someone, or not taught, right? Or are you totally overwhelmed where you're like, whoa, this sounds like a lot of stuff to think about. I don't even know where to start. And oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So I'd love to hear, like, excited, overwhelmed, both. Tell me in that chat. So Kane's asking, how do you reconcile storytelling with an answer first framework? I've been in a number of orgs that have drilled answer first into our brains. I have actually not heard of answer first, but I would be happy to look that up. And if you send me an email, I will definitely can give you my perspective. And Jane says, yes. Okay. So excited and overwhelmed. Yes. Okay. It is excited. Great. Okay. So what I want to hear, and we're not done yet, I'm asking you to still stick around. If you could quickly drop in the chat what the most useful thing was that you've learned, like which of the myths, which of the techniques do you think, or what did it help you think about a bit more? Because it helps me to understand what resonates most with practitioners. Oh, thank you, Stacy. Very helpful. Feels reasonable to implement. Yeah, really simple. Doesn't take a lot of time. Just a little bit of planning. Okay. So go ahead and drop what you found most useful. And now I want to ask for permission to share with you a very special offer that I have for you, where we barely scratched the surface today on what's possible. Okay, so Lisa says, okay, idea of the through line. Great. Yep, everyone gets excited about that. The color shift, the struggle with knowing how to get stakeholders to focus on the outcome. Yeah, so with this offer, I'm going to show you focusing on the outcome and recommendations is a whole part of that. So here is your ultimate solution to those remaining questions you have. I call it the Data Presentation and Storytelling Bootcamp, and you can find it by going to the offers. Let's just make sure. Yep. So the offer is live, or you can visit leapica.com/bootcamp. So this is my flagship offering for practitioners who want to take it to the next level with their presentations. And I have a 3-course exotic deep dive menu for you. So the first part is conceptualizing. Presentation ideation, planning, and brainstorming. This is before you start opening your PowerPoint and dropping in charts and slides, what you're going to think about in terms of your story, your audience, your message. You're going to learn things like the stakeholder savvy quadrant, how to talk to different audience types, how to create compelling recommendations, right? So Anna, you're saying more challenged by how to inspire execs to champion where you're trying to take. So sometimes it's the recommendations and how we position them, and you'll learn how to do that. You'll master the art of brainstorming so you don't spend lots of time spinning your wheels figuring out what to do, how to digitize your presentation plan. So much good stuff in there. Then we have visualizing slides, presentation slide design, animation, and productivity. Where are you not spending enough time? Where are you losing time? You'll learn how to tap into the power of typography, harness the power of real imagery in your presentations to evoke emotion and empathy, how to use screenshots from different platforms, from websites, different things to communicate, and how to save valuable time and productivity with things like learning how to master the slide master, a place we often don't visit enough. So that's going to make you a PowerPoint ninja. And finally, the favorite part of everyone is visualizing your data, chart visualization, and storytelling, how you tell your story over sequences of slides featuring the Pica protocol, the full one. You'll learn the anatomy of a persuasive data visualization, key understandings of how to frame things like lines, bar charts, how to really render charts well, the most common visualization violations, and my starter guide to chart choosing. So my bundle features lifetime on-demand access to over 40 bite-sized video modules. There's interactive exercises and quizzes. You have capstone assignments, a final project. You'll get a certificate of completion that you can even put on LinkedIn. Lifetime access to all future content. I'm always adding new modules. And I just want to take you through a couple of the results that some of the other practitioners and students like you have experienced. So my friend John, he's an agency owner, and he watched his client contracts get renewed when he was finally able to demonstrate the value that his team was providing. They didn't see it before. And he said, thanks to Lea's course, I've been able to improve my client retention and drive significant positive change in their campaigns and helped them grow. That's what we really want. Miriam used some of the tools to overcome internal blocks and mindsets that she had around how to prepare, and she got her presentations done in a fraction of the time. She said, Lea's course equipped me with tools, lists, shortcuts, and insights that helped me be more intentional and proud of action and results. And finally, I love this one so much. Davis equipped his entire agency team with the methodologies and immediately saw positive results. They were doing these unstructured data dumps before to sharing data stories, real ones, with internal and external stakeholders, and got some of those into a QBR. You guys are working on that now, and had amazing feedback. So what you'll receive with this in this 3-course bundle is each of these courses are worth almost $1,000 on their own. So you have all 3 of these courses, and I'm going to keep tracking this total value of what we're looking at. Now, a lot of people will say like, oh, I'm not a natural presenter. And I didn't want to leave this one part off about being a confident presenter. So as a bonus, I'm giving you my Deliver Public Speaking and Communication Masterclass. People love this. Pro preparation techniques and mindset exercises. How to create a home office fortress that you feel confident presenting from. A Zoom meeting cheat sheet. My disaster-proof technical checklist. Lots of learnings from that one. My meeting kickoff superhero script for starting strong. How to navigate challenging questions and comments. So invaluable soft skills for learning how to become a confident presenter. And we add that, we're already up to over $3,000 in value. You're also going to receive something called my resource vault. So you can't just learn these things or listen to courses, you have to put them into practice. So I've included every single one of my collection of checklists, resources, reading lists, prompts, interview guides, everything I have that's going to assist you step by step with applying these principles to your specific work to make sure this works for you. It's going to help you save time because you're not figuring out, like, when am I going to get all this done? And it's going to get rid of that overwhelm because you won't have to figure out what you need to do. So we're adding in that resource vault. So we're just there, right? So we're up pretty high. And I want you to think about, like, what would you be willing to pay for extended client contracts, scoring your highest bonus tier, job security right now? Oh my goodness. Now, remember, what I'm communicating to you is the total value. It's not what I'm charging today. So just in case, I want to make sure you know. You'll also receive a full 24-page full color protocol ebook that you can use with lots of examples and checklists to implement the protocol. and my special course on creating perfect presentation handouts. Okay, so here, we're up to here, we're doing good. And I want to really understand, like, what would the kind of results be worth to you? What would it be worth to have engaged and interested audiences, more organized planning process, more efficient slide creation, more powerful data stories, more effective charts, and more confidence and poise? You know, what this is valued at is almost $3,500. The normal investment for this whole package is $497, but because we are in my annual Cyber Week sale, you get a 50% discount at $249. It's the only time of the year that you can get it for a price this low, and the price is going to considerably jump next year once my book is out. And I want to give you 3 flexible pricing options. Okay, you have this one-time investment for $249. Just think, that's a couple of dinners for a family of 4, you know, and these are skills you'll have for the rest of your life. And this is a single license. I also understand that, you know, things are still hard with COVID. So I have a $50 6-month installment plan. $50 that can disappear in a Starbucks if you're not careful, right? And again, these are single licenses. If you are a leader or learning development manager and you're interested in a package for a team, I do offer enterprise packages, and it's something that you'll want to directly contact me about. So you'll just want to go to that contact page because I do offer bulk pricing for that. This is really a steal, honestly, when you think about that. I spent 10 years distilling all of this information down into this. Now, you might be thinking, well, I wish I could invest in myself, but I have to get approval from my manager, my HR department, my spouse, my pet. My dog doesn't want me. He's very stingy, you know, whatever. So I want you to let me help you with that objection. So I have a customizable how to convince your boss letter sitting right on the sales page, the enrollment page for this course. Again, that link is leapica.com/bootcamp, and it's available in your console here. And you can just download a copy and fill out why this would be a great investment for you and give it. And it's been really, really helpful to secure the valuable training that you need to position you for that increased demand. Now, if you go through this course and you can show me the results that within 30 days of enrolling, it's just not working for you, I will gladly give you a refund. I don't want you to feel like this is a risky investment, even as low as it is. And I just ask that you help me understand what might not be working, and you'll get it right back. And there is a special webinar bonus. You can apply for an exclusive private coaching opportunity with your professor, right? So this is a very rare opportunity. It's called the Guided Storyteller Cohort. And what that is once you enroll in this course, you are invited to apply to a 5-week accountability program that keeps you on track to finish this course within a month or 5 weeks or so. Okay, oftentimes we buy a course and we have great aspirations, and then life gets in the way and it starts gathering dust on the shelf. And my goal is not that just that you buy. I want you to finish and then use everything. And it's a private student group that gets laser targeted course coaching for your unique challenges. And it's only available for the first 15 people who enroll from today. And enrollment closes, this sale closes next Friday. I believe it's the 9th. So if you're interested in that next level coaching, you'll want to apply for the consult after you've enrolled in the course. You know, what you'll receive here is community and support. You'll get to network with people who are like you, who have the same aspirations, and give each other feedback, and live Zoom Q&A calls where we review your work together in context of the different pieces of the course. So really, this is the finest deal that I've ever put together. I really encourage you. I would love for you to check it out. Before you have to run. I know we're at the top of the hour, but I'd love for you to let me know in the chat how this served you. Whether you think like, if you have any questions whatsoever about the course, don't hesitate to go to that leapeak.com/contact URL. And I really hope to see you there. And what I want to leave you with, I will take any questions that you have. So go ahead if you have any more questions. I'm available to stay. But what I really, my goal for this, truly, the whole purpose of going down this path was that so that you'll be ready to become memorable as a data storyteller and speaker. You'll be ready to become impactful, and you'll be ready to become an indispensable resource wherever this journey takes you. Thank you so much for taking this time today. I hope to see you in class. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the holiday, and namaste, and go and roll.